What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Fierce Framework podcast, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm a business coach with a passion to see women breaking out of the mold society tells us we're supposed to fit into and to start living life more on our own terms. I believe the world benefits when women are living lives that we're lit up about and we're pursuing a purpose that makes us feel fulfilled. My goal with this podcast is to share inspiration, stories of other entrepreneurs just like you, and practical tools and tips to help you become fierce in your business. If that sounds good to you, you're going to love this episode. Let's get down to it. What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about confidence and some of the things that I hear that people think it is, and what I think it is, and how you build confidence. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about confidence is because it is such a powerful tool in empowering us to do the things that we're passionate about and to pursue the things that light us up. So one of like the biggest things that like, lit a fire in me is when people would compliment me on my confidence, but then like put themselves down in the same breath. Like, oh, it's so brave that like you go out and have dinner alone. I can never do that. And it was frustrating to me because it's like, no, like you can. It's not something I was like born with. It's not something that comes easily to me. It's something that I've grown and developed through putting myself out there and trying things. So one of the sad things is confidence is not like a magic feeling that you just have and then all of a sudden like you're ready to go try all these things and you feel good about putting yourself out there and pursuing the things that you want but are also scary. It doesn't fix those feelings of apprehension or fear or anxiety. Um, yeah. The good news is though, like it's not something you're just like born with or you don't have, like one or the other. It's absolutely something that you can build and gain and develop. So if you don't consider yourself a confident person, the good news is you can absolutely work to build your confidence. And I think what people don't like to hear is that it's not just something that some people have and other people don't. So if you don't have confidence, like it's on you to build it and you have that opportunity and you have that potential. You don't have to just like opt out of things because you don't naturally feel confident. And then hand in hand with that is like, honestly, confidence isn't a feeling. Or maybe more correctly, the feeling of confidence is the result of stepping out in courage and doing things even though you're scared, despite being afraid. And then confidence is like it's the result, it's the byproduct of doing the work to build your confidence. And then the feeling of confidence is like a lagging indicator. It's the thing at the end after you do the work where you start feeling confident for next time. Like, oh, I can do that again. But very rarely does the feeling of confidence come before taking the action, putting yourself out there, doing the scary thing. Okay? So it's like encouraging and sad at the same time, depending on what your perspective is. Because I think it would be really nice if there was just some magical way to feel confident and then it would be easy to go out and do the things. But in my experience, that's not the way it works, is I had to do things scared and then looking back, I realized like, hey, I did that. I'm fine. There were some good things that I was able to pull from it, some not so fun things that I could use to learn and have a better experience next time. And excuse me, that is what built my confidence. So I kind of wanted to get those things out of the way. Like it's not just a feeling, it's not something that you either have or don't have. It's more like a muscle that you can build and develop. And it's also not usually in my experience, I think some people have a different experience, but in my experience, it's not usually like a blanket sentiment or a blanket feeling of where like I'm just a confident person and I'm confident in all the things all the time. So people tell me that I seem confident, but a lot of the time it's because of the way I'm choosing to present myself. And so I'm exuding a confidence that I don't necessarily feel, right? And I can be confident in certain situations that I've practiced or that I've been in before or that I'm good at, and also not be confident in other situations where I've never been there before, I don't know what to expect, or it's pulling on characteristics that I'm not super strong in, right? So I hope you find that encouraging, right? That it's not like all or nothing. You can be confident in some areas and then work on building your confidence in other areas. And I think that that's totally normal. I think it's rare and amazing to just feel confident, period. But I will say, from what I've learned and experienced myself, one of the ways to work towards that like blanket confidence is to really dig down and work on like your core confidence, being confident in who you are. And I think that is like, I'm not there yet, so I can't tell you for sure, but I think that is the most effective way to get closest to a place where you're like confident pretty much all the time, confident in pretty much every situation, because really you're confident in yourself, which basically, like, the way I like to think of it is I'm confident in myself, meaning that I can trust myself. I'm confident that I will figure things out. I'm confident that I will get myself through the situation. I might not win the competition, but I'm confident that I'll be okay if I lose, or that, if I will do my best regardless of what place I come in, or that I will try again for first if I get third place, like if that's the decision I've made, right? So it's like an internalized trust in yourself that you're going to figure things out, that you're going to be okay, that you have your own back. And that like root deep confidence in yourself for me is like the truest confidence that tends to have the most impact in other areas as well, as opposed to like getting really good at one thing. If I build my confidence in karaoke and I'm practicing karaoke and I'm going out and I'm singing in front of people and I'm getting over that fear and I'm building my confidence there, that confidence can absolutely translate into other areas. But that core, like deep rooted confidence in who you are and like your own having your backness tends to, for me, translate into other areas of life more pervasively than building confidence like in a skill or like in one characteristic. So I hope that makes sense. It's not the root of this message, so I'm not going to focus too much on that. Let's move on. All right, as I've been trying to do, I am focusing on three bullet points that all kind of tie together about around confidence for this little session today. Okay, so we talked about how it's more of a muscle than like an attribute that you either have or don't have. So the coolest thing about that perspective is that you can build confidence. You can create confidence. You can develop confidence within yourself. The way I did that is I started small and just like tried things. So, like we talked about earlier, you can have different levels of confidence in different areas of your life and like different aspects, right? So, if you are working on, let's go to the karaoke, right? If you want to feel more confident singing karaoke, what I did is sorry, this is it's like a silly example, but hey, it's a real life story. So what I did is I went to a couple different karaoke bars and found one that I felt comfortable at, and I started like hanging out and I started meeting some people and I got to know the bartender and I got to know the karaoke DJ and I started to feel comfortable there. So when I say start small, I start super small. People tell me that I seem confident, and I'm like, you have no idea the anxiety that I'm living with. But I don't want to let my anxiety hold me back. I don't want to live in this constant state of like, oh, I can never do that. I'm just too anxious. Like, I'm too afraid. I'm too stressed. Like, so being able to kind of grow that in a safe space has given me the chance to kind of build it incrementally where it's like, okay, we can do this and starting super small. And then as I started making friends, you talk to people and it's like, oh, what are you singing? And they're like, oh, what are you singing? And I'm like, actually, I don't really know. I don't really sing karaoke. Okay, a side note, actually, I started super small because I have a couple friends who have a karaoke setup that they bring to the house parties. And so, like, actually, over the past couple years, I've sang karaoke in someone's living room. And that it was like the first baby step of building my confidence before I even went to a bar with strangers. Okay. So, whatever it is you're wanting to do, what is the smallest thing? What is the smallest step you can take to start? Because this is a separate thing that we won't touch on today. It's in prior episodes. You can build confidence from failure when something doesn't go the way you wanted it to, the way you planned, the way you hoped it will. Depending on your ability to reframe and learn from that situation, you can still use it to build confidence because you can build your confidence in yourself, right? Of like, oh, I made it through. I took care of myself. I was kind to myself and I was resilient after I lost that race or after I choked on that karaoke song, like whatever. So you can still build confidence from a less than ideal outcome, but it's easier and more streamlined, I think, to build confidence when you have a success, when you have a win. So if I'm in a living room with friends, everybody who loves me anyway, and it's super low stakes karaoke, and I'm just like singing back up to one of my friends, like that's a very small step. And it's more, it's an easy win to use the corporate term, right? Like it's low hanging fruit. It's a quick win. It's something that I'm not very likely to fail at, but that still gives me anxiety. So it's still a step. It's still stepping out of my comfort zone, but the odds of me doing well or it working out the way I hope it will are pretty high compared to the odds of me like totally having a terrible experience. Like, people aren't going to stop being friends with me because I suck at karaoke. In a in a room full of people who are all my friends, it's pretty low odds that people are gonna like point and stare or like make fun of me. So that's the kind of thing I mean by taking a chance in an atmosphere where you're most likely to win. Because that is like, it's such an easy way to build confidence when you're likely to do well. It takes a little bit more like critical thinking and reflection and kind of extrapolation to figure out how to build confidence from a failure. So that's why I recommend like starting small and then just try the things you want to do. If it's going out to a meal by yourself, go for it. And then a baby step, right, could be if you want to go to some expensive steakhouse or some like super vibey, like candlelit restaurant, and you're like, okay, it's super weird to go by myself because it's romantic, like, no, 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 and I don't want people to think I'm a loser, which that's all BS, but that's a different conversation. Um, Instead of having that be your first step, you could try to break it down and be like, okay, what's going to be easier? What am I most likely to have a good experience with? So maybe it's lunch. Maybe that feels like less pressure to you. And you're like, okay, I can do lunch. Or if you've never done a coffee date by yourself, tons of people go to coffee shops by themselves. So it's a little more normalized than like a whole dinner. If you've never done that before, maybe that's a good step, right? So what you want to do, think of what you want to do, and then how can you take a baby step of that bigger goal and start building your confidence and doing that, right? So, say you're at the coffee shop alone and you're feeling awkward. Okay, great. What are you going to do, right? Are you going to grab your phone? Are you going to bring a book next time? Are you going to maybe chat with the person next to you and see how it goes? When you're in that situation, then you get the option to see, okay, this is low stakes, but I'm still encountering this challenge, right? This feeling of awkwardness. So how am I going to address this challenge now and or in the future? And then you get to solve that problem. And then the next time you build on that and you do the next thing. And you're also like building this repertoire, excuse me, where it's like now you know. Maybe you never thought before to like take a book, and you're like, oh, well, now I know to take a book. And I know that that feels good and that's something I enjoy. And then actually, I had a couple people ask me about the book. And so it's actually a really good conversation starter. And now you're learning like, this is something that works for me. This is another tool in my toolbox. Okay. That's also why I say try things that you want to do. You can absolutely build your confidence by putting yourself in an outside your comfort zone. Excuse me, sorry. In a situation that you don't necessarily like have interest in or that you like want to excel in, and you're still going to develop those skills and it's still a growing opportunity, right? But I think it's more like effective to have the whole growth journey be in an area of something you want to be doing anyway, because then your solutions are going to be more helpful for your actual goal. So, like going to a restaurant by yourself can still help you build your confidence and interacting with others and working through your anxiety if your goal is to sing karaoke, right? But you might get grow faster if you're starting out with the karaoke goal and kind of going in that direction instead of focusing on the dinner by yourself in order to help you. Now, they're both going to like cross pollinate because there's like multifunctional skills, right? You're learning things that are going to help you in multiple situations. So, regardless, it's going to be good for you, but you can like grow faster, quicker, I think, in my experience, when you're like focusing on a smaller version of your ultimate goal instead of on like a different scenario. Okay, step one, start small, try things. Okay. And then step two is really like allow yourself to learn. You're basically learning, like you are growing, you're building a muscle, like you're growing this new aspect of yourself. So you're a beginner, right? Like you're a beginner in this area. And so that's okay. I can't tell you how many times I felt stupid for feeling uncomfortable. I'm like, I should be more confident than this. This should be easier for me. I shouldn't be getting anxious about this. While those thoughts are totally natural, none of those thoughts are actually helpful and they're not productive, right? They're not getting me any closer to where I want to be. They're actually potentially influencing me to spiral, right? And just be like, this is way too hard. I'm super overwhelmed. I'm over it. Okay. So I want to encourage you, like when those thoughts come in, which is totally normal and we can't control our intrusive thoughts, but when those thoughts come in, kind of talking yourself through them, like, this is fine. People have social anxiety. People feel uncomfortable going to dinner alone. People feel not confident about singing karaoke. People have hesitations about going on a trip by themselves. Like people have these feelings and that's okay. And you can talk yourself through it like, hey, I'm doing this anyway. That's actually really badass of me. Like, I could let this thought hold me back because, yes, I am experiencing discomfort or anxiety or whatever in this moment. But it's actually pretty cool of me that I'm doing this anyway because I have a goal of doing XYZ and I am actively taking steps towards that despite being a little uncomfortable, despite being a little bit afraid, despite feeling like super awkward, maybe. Like you're doing it anyway. So, like, be gentle with yourself. Acknowledge that this is new to you and that you're learning and that you're not going to do it perfectly because doing something perfectly the first time is an anomaly. Okay. It's actually way more normal to kind of screw it up the first couple times because you're a beginner. And that applies to building your confidence as well. So be gentle with yourself. Don't let those thoughts defeat you. The fact that you're having a thought or you're having a feeling where you're anxious, you're uncomfortable, you're scared, whatever it is, that doesn't mean that you're failing. Because while you're sitting there and doing it anyway, you're beating that feeling because you're actually in charge. You have the feeling. You're not letting the feeling have you. So that's where kind of where I want to focus on with like bullet point two, allowing yourself to learn. I think this is huge too. So I have I have major social anxiety, but it's funny because I cope by being like loud and hilarious, and and have a big personality, which is like apparently super weird for an introvert. Nobody believes me. But wow, where was I going with this? Oh, so yeah, like the more I talk, the more I like dig into my social anxiety and like trying to figure out like what's going on and how can I live my life despite that. Because it's real and that's okay. It's not my fault. And I can do things to like expand my comfort zone so that things that used to be scary and anxiety inducing, I've done them and practiced them so many times where they're not as anxiety inducing anymore. I'm like growing my comfort zone. And this is something I'm actually super passionate about. And you probably heard me talk about on TikTok. So, but that's kind of this learning and allowing yourself to learn really goes hand in hand with that concept. Okay. And so I think a lot of us, as we started acknowledging like mental health issues and anxiety and stuff, we're like, it's real. And so instead of like telling people to just get over it, we're realizing like, oh my gosh, this is real and it can be debilitating, right? And there are a lot of us, so like me, my anxiety is not usually debilitating. But now that we're acknowledging it and I'm like allowed to have it, right? It can be really easy for me to be like, no, I have anxiety, I'm not doing that. And this is a fine line that I think you need to figure out for yourself. So I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but there have been situations where I have been able to say, I can do this. I want to do this despite feeling shitty while doing it, despite being super anxious, because I want to practice doing this because I want to be a person who can do this without letting my anxiety hold me back. So I can feel it, and that's fine. I'll have the anxiety, but I want to do the thing anyway. Like that's what I can control, right? Maybe I can't make the anxiety go away, but I can still do the things that I want to do. And so that's the kind of person I want to be is doing the things that I want to do and working through the anxiety as much as I can or being able to hold space for it while I'm still doing the things. And I do want to caveat like that's someone who has the privilege where my anxiety is not like debilitating. So I'm not trying to compare. I'm trying to share my story because I know there's other people out there in the same situation. I also know there's other people out there who are not in the same situation and they're like, good for you. That doesn't work for me. And that's totally okay. So, as always, anything I say, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, leave it. Totally fine. I am not prescribing anything. I'm just sharing my lived experience. But I noticed with myself, like I started holding myself back because I didn't want to feel the anxiety. So I would just avoid situations. And then I kind of felt like my comfort zone in getting smaller because I wasn't like stretching and I wasn't doing things that triggered my anxiety because I just wanted to feel comfortable. And but then that like made my comfort zone shrink and I was like comfortable doing less and less, actually. This is why I started going out to bars before I went to Belize, is because I was like, I want to build this capability to be able to chat with strangers and to be able to be uncomfortable and sit through a situation and hang out at a bar and be like, this is okay. I feel like a loser right now because I don't have any friends because I went to Belize by myself, right? okay, this is a scenario that I can just like work through. This is discomfort that I can sit with and like this is okay. And I can be uncomfortable and I can hang out for a while. And if it's terrible, I can leave. Okay. Um, or more often than not, the feeling passes or some kind of opportunity arises to distract me from it, or you end up chatting with somebody who's actually really cool. And so you end up learning like I can be anxious and I can do the thing I want to do and I can have a good time. And like I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to have a good time. And that's the hit or miss that you can't always control, right? So but that was powerful for me of like practicing being uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, I'm feeling weird because like it feels weird as a woman to sit at a bar by myself. Um or to like go sing karaoke that's like not a super common karaoke song. Like it just feels weird and you're uncomfortable, right? Because you're not used to doing that type of thing. But as you're doing it, you're practicing and you're growing that muscle. You're literally expanding your comfort zone. Okay. And this is a whole side conversation, but I do think it's worth saying specifically. I think it's really easy to confuse discomfort with danger. And so it's like when you feel uncomfortable, because a lot of time your body thinks you're in danger, right? Like that's where our anxiety, fear, like all this stuff is coming from, is like our brains don't really know the difference between social danger and like life and death danger. So it can be really easy to conflate the two. And it's like when you feel uncomfortable, sometimes you have to talk yourself through and be like, bro, I'm still safe though. Like I'm just uncomfortable and I can survive discomfort and that's okay. Like I can sit in this discomfort for a while and expand my capability to handle discomfort and to still move through my life and to still do the things that I want to do. So I think that is a super powerful part of like learning and letting yourself be uncomfortable and realizing that you're growing and like this is the work, right? It doesn't feel good. It's not easy. It's not like boom, bam. It is a process. And I hate processes, but everything in the world is one. So sometimes you just have to accept that life is the way it is. And then the last bullet point I want to mention is that I kind of touched on it earlier when I was talking about reflecting. And I think this can be I think even if you don't reflect, you're probably still like, yeah, growing your capability and growing your confidence and like growing your capacity just by doing. But our minds are so powerful. And again, confidence is that trusting yourself, right? And you trust in a relationship. So it's like that reflection and being having intentionality about after the experience, right? Taking a step back and be like, okay, how did that go? What am I proud of? What are my wins? What are things that I can work on for next time or additional tools that I want to try to bring with me next time to have a better experience? For example, we'll just keep going with karaoke, right? Um, People clapped. Okay, great. Or no one clapped. Okay, how do I feel about that? Am I doing this so people clap? No, I'm doing it because I want to go up on a stage and sing. Okay, did I do that? Yeah, you did the thing. And that's what you can control, right? You can't control other people's reactions. And so taking that step, that moment to like reflect and be like, maybe it felt shitty. Maybe I was super uncomfortable. Maybe nobody clapped. But I did it. I did the thing I wanted to do despite feeling anxious, despite like being scared to do it, despite never having done it before. And taking a moment to like celebrate yourself and recognize the progress you're making, it cements that more into your brain because you're like reliving it, right? And you're reframing it to focus on what went right and the positive that you can take out of that because our minds are super powerful. And so you could focus on the negative and be like, I felt anxious the whole time. I'm never doing that again. And you could absolutely use that to increase your anxiety and your reasons for never doing that again. So that's part of why it's so important to take that moment and reflect and make sure you're pulling the good out of it. Like, okay, if it didn't go how I wanted, what can I learn and do differently next time? What did go right that I can highlight and remember and recognize myself for and kind of reinforce that in my brain so I have that to pull on next time. And regardless of the outcome, you're building your confidence in yourself. You're building your trust in yourself that, hey, I did the thing I wanted to do. I have my back. I was, I supported myself up there on that stage doing the thing I said I wanted to do. And no, there weren't fireworks, but hey, I did it. And now I'm still alive, right? Like I survived. And so, hell yeah, good for me, man. So that's part of what I mean by like whether it goes well or not, you can still pull from it. And so that third like reflection piece is so powerful in framing it and how are you going to remember that moment and what are the takeaways that you're choosing to bring with you into future interactions. Okay? So I hope that helps. I think confidence is like such a juicy thing to talk about, and I honestly think it's so misunderstood. So thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this. If you have any questions or feedback, I always love to hear from you. You can DM me on Instagram or TikTok at the Fierce Framework. I love to hear from you. So I will see you so soon. Until next time, keep becoming fierce. Thank you so much for joining me on this past episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through taking a messy action, baby steps, and growing your confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you got a lot out of the episode. If you're looking for a little bit more, make sure that you are subscribed to my newsletter. I drop a new email every week. I'm also on social media platforms at the Fierce Framework, and I do have some coaching spots opening up. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to connect on that, feel free to drop me a DM or check out the link that I've included in the description. I can't wait to see you next time, and until then, keep becoming fierce.